Welcome to Reflections, a program where we discuss values and virtues for the transformation of the individual and the society in general. I am Father George Ehusani. I have with me in the studio today Dr. Armstrong Idachaba. He was the acting Director General of the Nigerian Broadcasting Commission for many years, and he is a professor of management.
No, mass communication.
Professor of mass communication.
The Dean of Management.
Oh, Professor of mass communication and Dean of Management, Veritas University, Abuja. You're welcome to the studio.
Thank you, Father.
So
Good to see you, sir.
You have a rich experience, experience in communication and now experience in management. So, we are discussing today the whole question of mental health in Nigeria, particularly trauma. With your exposure now, with the recent training you have had with us at Terra and trauma healing, what will be your assessment about the prevalence of trauma in our society? What will be your assessment?
Thank you, Father. Perhaps it would be a good point to begin by, first of all, without patronizing you, appreciating what I think is a divine intervention in the life of this country at the time that God gave you this vision to do what you are doing with regards to trauma and mental health.
Thank you.
It is obvious, increasingly so, that Nigeria is actually the biggest problem, the biggest bug against the country, Nigeria. Perhaps is the psycho-trauma state that the country is in, and it has been over time. As I was reflecting during the training, it occurred to me that Nigeria has been, over decades, actually been situated by its own evolution, in a state, conflicted to be in a state of trauma. The interventions of colonialism and the dislocations that came with it, you know, was first of all a historical starting point. You know, communities were split,
yes,
cultures were also split,
yes,
and then in the process, you know, conflict for leadership, ethnicism, tribalism,
yes,
nepotism, you know, loss of values, as my colleagues were saying earlier, you know, now beclouded the country even from the beginning of its formation.
From the very beginning.
And what is more, the seeds of these dislocations and conflicts, you know, further polarize the society, you know, and diminished our values, you know, across the polity and across geographical, ethnic lines, such that rather than build a nation that's bound in love and unity, you know, we have continued to grapple, you know, with the existential reality of the conflicts and the traumas that follow. Religious conflicts.
Trauma-inducing conflicts.
Even in terms of accession to leadership. Imagine the crisis of military coups that happened over time.
Over a 30-year period.
And the crisis that followed. The loss of lives.
Yes.
The politicization of the process. You know, it created also victims. A lot of people, even families up till now, you know, are still traumatized by their experience.
Yes. I
have a cousin who we had a discussion and told me was retired from the army prematurely, you know, because his father was said to have participated in a coup at a certain time. So the assumption was that he probably had the blood of a coupist, and that affected.
So his own career is affected,
truncated
by the father's
assumed atrocities. You know, how do you build a country on that premise? Now look at the crisis of the democratic process. You know, where even an ordinary election is turned into war. You know, people take arms against themselves.
You know, I still remember, it's still fresh in my mind and very painful. The political leader, woman in Igalaland,
Salome,
who was burnt to death
Salome,
in her house.
Yes, in Ochadamo. Yeah, Salome was burnt in Kogi State during.
And that was it was after the election.
Exactly.
Election had ended.
And they said she supported one of the parties and all of that, and they surrounded her house, put the place on fire, and made sure they stood there, to make sure that she died. I mean, Father, you know, these things they were not imagined before in the cultural environment we came from.
These are just terrible.
But those are the kind of animal behavior we are beginning to see.
And you remember what happened in Lagos in 2023?
Yeah.
When people that look like you, you would have been taught to look like somebody who is going to vote Labour Party, and they will prevent you from going to vote.
Absolutely. Now, just by mere look, and some people just concluded that they were the owners of certain territories, and all other people, whether they were Nigerians, whether they were citizens or not, they had no right. So people now created territories.
People who have lived for 200 years.
No, you deny them their citizenship. Now, how will those people feel? How will their offspring feel? How will children after them feel? Within your own country, it's not as if you are in Europe or in another continent.
You have no other country.
So, and that is the socio-cultural, economic, political situation that Nigeria has experienced over time. And all of it is built with the characteristics of trauma. And that is why, Father, you'll also see that on a national level, which are issues that you have interrogated. And I thank you again for being a restless speaker for the good of this country. Even by your activism on the pulpit and outside the people, you have always called to question the issue of leadership. I remember attending a leadership training here 10 years ago.
Yes.
Now, why do you think that leadership is such a big problem? It's also because of trauma. The people that we produce as leaders, the process that produces them is a traumatized process. Then they too, evolve out of a traumatized background, political background, cultural background,
family background,
and family background. So what kind of leadership do you expect? And that is why, as we were saying off camera, that sometimes some leaders in this country, who are supposed to be ordinarily custodians of our national values, when they speak and act and the way they behave, you begin to wonder where it's coming from. So so the big question then will be, with this kind of a setting and background, then what kind of legacies are you going to bequeath to those that are coming after you? So your intervention, Father, I repeat again, is divine. I hope you get the necessary support that the country, even the peak of the leadership, will realize that this is at the fabric of the foundation of this country. I think the whole idea of orientation or national reorientation will have to begin at this point.
Yes, I mean, I don't know if you read the paper I sent around about the imperative of psychotrauma healing.
I read it.
Good. So, like you said, our entire history is punctuated by conflicts. And the people who are superintending the country today are themselves traumatized.
They are products of the traumatized.
The security system, the police, the manner in which policemen are trained. You go to police college. It used to be, I don't know how much things have improved. The environment is traumatizing. The way they are treated is traumatizing. And then you put somebody with a gun on the highway. Maybe he has not received his salary. His salary amounts to nothing. And so he is traumatized, and he traumatizes everybody that is passing by. So, but to what extent do you believe that the leaders recognize the problem in our hands?
For me, that's the big shocker. And most of us don't actually realize the magnitude of this problem. I think that coming to you to attend this program was a real eye-opener to me. I now realize, even from your speakers, the personal experience of the resource persons that you brought.
Yes.
And some of my own colleagues who had to share experience. You'll be wondering, are these things all happening within your own society?
And that we're living with.
We're living with it.
Yes.
And the magnitude is far spread.
Yes.
Even as you were saying with my colleague earlier, even on the domestic floor or on the domestic floor, where parents can hardly live happily.
Yes.
Where there's domestic crisis. And even the leadership recruitment process, like I said, in the democratization process, is traumatized. So you are throwing up leaders, you are baking leaders from the beginning, that are created out of conflicted, personalities.
I mean, look at today, 2 years to the next election.
Yes.
See the level of political antipathies. And the antipathies are not just between one party and the other, intra-party antipathies.
Absolutely.
And inter-party antipathies. And you are having animosities, acrimonies.
Like a state of war.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And preparing for elections is like preparing for war.
Yes, it's with heightened tension.
Yes.
People are throwing everything at it.
Yes. So, under these circumstances, there are few professionals available to help people. And worse still, the leadership is not aware that this is an area to focus attention on. And during our presentation, we did say, when we're talking of the mind-body relationship,
yes,
when the minds of a large proportion of your population are troubled, their bodies will be troubled.
Mm-hmm.
And they will not be able to contribute optimally to the economy of the nation.
Absolutely.
Or to the development of the nation. So, what will you recommend after this exposure? What will you recommend for leadership on a national level, for leadership at school level, institutional level, for leadership at church level? What would you recommend that people should do? Because this is a sick society, definitely a sick society.
But first of all, I don't think that the leadership, those in power, don't actually know that there's a problem, because they are also enmeshed in the problem. And obviously, within their immediate family, there are a lot of casualties, because their children definitely are involved one way or the other in the malice. They have cousins, they have relations, they have clans and communities where this crisis happen every day. They see it, they know it. They themselves, like we have agreed, are also facing some level of trauma or the other. But what happens in Nigeria, which is very sad, is the leadership self-alienation, from the reality of society. Now, nobody wants to take it up as a challenge, and that's sad. This problem is so large, is so engulfing, with the potential of mass destruction, so much of it, that at this time, I expect that government will make it a priority. The government has no option than to make this a national priority. Of course, there are good efforts in terms of fighting the drug war. We see that happen. EFCC may be fighting Yahooism. There are agencies that are interventionist. But I think
the fundamental issue,
absolutely, those agencies are more or less by start set up to attack the symptoms.
Yes.
But
what are the problems leading people to need drugs?
Absolutely.
We are doing nothing about it.
So, and that is where, again, I think that your intervention, as ingenious as it is very timely for this country. The whole idea of psycho-spiritual. Yes, the psychotic aspect of it is science, is social science. I think it's been studied over the period, like you were saying in the discussion with my registrar. Universities have been studying psychology for a very long time, for as long as we know.
Yes.
Right? But the practical dimensions.
Yes.
And I don't know if as we speak, we have a national policy on mental health.
Well, the psychologists, the psychiatrists, the clinical psychologists, they have been working with the Federal Ministry and the National Assembly.
Yeah.
And by 2022, there was some bill that they worked on mental health in Nigeria. But a lot still needs to be done.
Absolutely.
Because right now, the clinical psychology as a career, as a profession, has not been properly recognized in this country as a career area.
Wow.
To be recognized and graded like other careers.
It ought to.
It ought to.
Ought to.
But right now, they still have that problem. Now, let's before we close this program, let's discuss a dimension.
Yes, sir.
One of the dimensions in the week-long program that your Senate of your university had is the dimension of forgiveness of hurts. Not only individual hurts, but group hurts. I hope you realize that in this country, one of the problems of the intermittent conflicts is not the crisis of today, is crisis generational.
Yeah.
Generational trauma, intergenerational trauma.
Yes.
And until some of the hurts, group hurts and wounds are healed, we are likely to keep visiting hurts on one another. What would you recommend that Nigeria should do so that Igbos have issues against the rest of Nigeria because in many ways they have not been fairly treated since after the war, even though Gowon came and pronounced no victor, no vanquished. But if since that time we have not had Igbo president, we have not had Igbos occupying key positions in the country,
So
there's a problem.
No forgiveness.
It means there's a problem.
Yeah.
Next is that you have one group against the other, suspicion. Yorubas don't trust Igbo, quote unquote. Don't trust Igbos, Igbos don't trust Yorubas, the Hausa don't. And some of these are predicated or based on some event in the past that have not been forgiven.
Yeah.
What must we do about it?
Father, thanks so much. And that's the big problem with Nigeria as a country, the pre-modal sentiments. But again, the point is, some of these are deeply cultural. And they have to do with the existential philosophy of some of those ethnicities.
Okay.
Yes, I've heard that there are certain cultures in Nigeria, I know about one, where it is a creed that vengeance is paramount.
You don't forgive.
You don't forgive.
So, how do you negotiate or navigate living with such a group if there's a group that is cultural that they don't forgive?
Absolutely. And that don't forget in the Bible there was a period they said tit for tat.
Now, a tooth for a tooth.
Fine. And some of those beliefs, still exist within certain cultures, certain societies, even in contemporary society. So the way to go for us, again, which will expand the scope of what you do, is that we must get the cultural leadership together too. The kings, the traditional rulers, they must be part of this process. Because no matter how you look at it, there's still a huge chunk of the illiterate in Nigeria. People are easy, and they are very...
People are easily
led, gullible.
Misled, very gullible.
Very gullible, with all kinds of sentiments.
You just come and say that the Bera people hate the Igala people.
Absolutely.
And they will buy it.
Absolutely. And there are those, it's a faulty myth, but there are some who will live all their life with that and transfer
to their children.
In their oral narratives to their children. So it's big. And then, yesterday you were making a point about inclusiveness. Sadly, as you noticed, we are beginning to become more excluded.
Yes.
The physical walls are showing, and people are not meeting.
Yes.
People are not talking.
Yes.
There's no converging point, for an integration of culture.
Yes.
So
there is no melting pot.
So how do you do that?
Yeah, there's no melting pot. I mean, for 8 years we complained that the late President Buhari was focusing his appointments on Katsina people and on Northerners.
Yeah.
And then are we going to have another 8 years of the Tinubu government focusing on the Yorubas and Lagos mafia and not looking at the rest of the country? How do you run a society like that? Such a society can make progress because people will be resentful. Those that feel marginalized will be resentful.
And then it leads to the whole issue of, well, if you do me like this, when it is my turn,
I will do the same.
Exactly. Imagine when President Buhari died. Father, if you notice, the same period, the same time, when the nation supposedly was supposed to be in a mourning mood, the politicians were up attacking themselves regarding his legacy. And you needed to read some of the language. some people were using, very insensitive, very uncouth, and they were all ethnic based.
Yes.
All ethnic based.
Meaning, actually, what it points to is that we hardly have national leaders in Nigeria.
Yeah.
We have had ethnic warlords, ethnic champions, actually almost from the founding of this nation.
Yeah.
Because was Azikiwe recognized nationally?
No.
Hardly. Was Ahmadu Bello recognized nationally?
He was known
Hardly.
for the north. Awo was known for the west.
Recognized nationally? So they were very good in their region,
Yeah.
very well celebrated in their region, but Nigeria has the misfortune of not having produced a national leader that from north to south and east and west, everybody says. Ghana managed to have that in Kwame Nkrumah.
Yeah, as a nationalist.
Tanzania had that in Nyerere.
Yeah.
Kenya had it in Jomo Kenyatta.
And South Africa with Mandela.
And South Africa with Mandela. Botswana had it in Seretse Khama.
Yeah, we never had.
We never had a national leader. That has been a major, terrible legacy.
Lacuna, yeah,
yes,
it's a
vacuum.
gap.
It's
a
a gap. Because every nation needs a father.
Absolutely.
Singapore, Lee Kuan Yew.
And it's when you have those kind of symbols of national cohesion, then you can build solidarity.
Yes.
And then define and then delineate or reduce the divides.
And I do say in my leadership trainings, I do say that it is such persons that encapsulate the core values of the nation.
Yes.
So Singaporeans will look at Lee Kuan Yew, they will look at the values he lived by, and the values he lived by now approximate to the values of the nation.
The national ideal.
National ideal. So they give a sense of identity. And I'm saying, if you go and look at our young people and check their phones, screen, what do they call it? Screen cover.
Yeah.
Which one of our founding fathers do they have?
They don't even know about them. And they couldn't be bothered.
They couldn't be bothered.
They don't even know about the immediate leaders even within their own vicinity.
So if you look at our young people in our schools, maybe it is celebrities, sports celebrities, music celebrities, movie celebrities. They are the ones that are their mentors.
That's
now, meanwhile, we have had presidents, governors, local government chairmen. We have had leaders that are supposed to win the hearts of young people to be the mentors of our young people.
But Father, I think there's a hunger. There's a chunk of the generation that actually are looking for an ideal leader.
Yes.
And look at the example of Obi.
When the young people came together, and they were taught to be three young boys in a business center who are until the professional politicians saw the tsunami that was coming.
Absolutely. And then all those things happened.
Yes. Yeah. Meaning that the young, indeed, as you are saying, the young people have a hunger to identify with somebody that under the circumstances, they think this person.
Yeah. So they are looking for a role model.
Yes.
They are looking for someone, an ideal, who can take them out of the quagmire. Yeah. Unfortunately, we have a historical fractured, ethnicized, politicized, polarized leadership that's not powerful. I was quite interested in what one of your resource persons said. I think the former visitor of Adamawa University said it's only a Father George Ehusani that can heal Nigeria. But because he feels that even the whole talk about forgiveness, that people are so traumatized that some people
are not yet prepared to listen.
But you are dogged, you have faith in what you do, and we appreciate that. I cherish you for that. I hope in your quest and search, God will also
bring other people who are committed,
who can help us evolve the kind of leadership we want for in this country.
Now, the media in this country, you are in charge of the broadcasting commission.
Yes.
The media in the country are trying, but I think that in terms of social engineering, in terms of contributing to changing the scenario, to changing the narrative, don't you think that there is a lot more that I'm talking of regular media because as for social media, people just, there's no, there doesn't have to be any philosophy.
Absolutely.
But with the regular media that should operate with a philosophy, with an orientation, and a commitment to nation building, don't you think that there's a lot more that could be done?
Yeah, the problem from my study over time basically is that the country, as a country, we've neglected the role of public broadcasting. Because national models and symbols, and values are actually propagated and inculcated through the public broadcaster.
Media, yes,
And that's what happens in the UK.
I mean, look at BBC.
Yeah, that's the perfect example.
Selling the values of the British people.
When we were young in Kaduna in primary school, I recall that then, even in our primary school, there are hours that they would take us to a certain location, and then they were retransmitting broadcasts from BBC. Yes. They would be talking in their English accent. I think they were educational programs, where we will sit down and try to listen. And I think it happens up to today that the British government, even through their other funded agencies,
yes.
They are deliberate.
Yes.
Yeah, in terms of media messaging.
Yes.
And they build it in from the beginning. So they propagate the ideal role models as we're discussing.
Yes.
They also promote the right values. They make sure that the kind of content that is created is one that is edifying.
I mean,
yeah.
I have told people that there is no value-free media.
No. You either get good or bad.
Yeah, there's no value-free media.
Yeah.
Meaning that people have to be deliberate about what we want to communicate.
Again, I appreciate you for that. You are very committed in your evangelism, in your crusading. You have stayed focused, and of course, I think over the time you have realized the power of the media. Apart from writing, you are also on TV and on radio, and that's fantastic. We hope that the kind of things you do get more airtime. This kind of programming that the interventions you are doing. What stops a public broadcaster, for instance, from devoting sizable amount of airtime at the state and national level?
Well, I'm grateful to AIT. Yeah. AIT has been very, very supportive
over the years,
for the last 12 years.
Yeah.
And of course, Lumen Christi and Kaftan and so I'm grateful to the television stations that broadcast my programs. But you are right that programs that are committed to national development, so that everything is not about money.
And the government has to fund it.
Yeah.
Government has to be deliberate. You see, sadly, the stations we have that people think are actually public broadcasters are not. They are just arms of the government.
Oh, yes.
NTA, Radio Nigeria.
It's arm of government, yes.
So it's government bulletin.
Yes.
So their priority is to government.
And it's not supposed to be so.
No.
BBC is a government enterprise.
It's public funded.
But BBC is not just government propaganda machine.
No. Aha. In fact, they criticize government.
Very much.
BBC,
Yes. So we need our public state television stations, NTA, Radio Nigeria. We need these government broadcast agencies to actually be working like national orientation agency, as it were.
They have to become public broadcasters.
Yes.
Government really does not have to own his own radio or TV station.
Yes.
They should allow, those stations like NTA should be funded from the national purse, from parliament.
Yes.
So that they get their money directly from the tax. But what happens now is that they are put as part of the parcel, or what they call envelope, in the Ministry of Information.
So that they are like just propaganda for government.
That's all. So what do you expect? When they don't even have enough money to run around and follow ministers and advisors, they cannot even travel anywhere. How many of them create programs now? They can't create any content. So most of the time what you see are some of the things you see on those stations are just things that are produced by independent producers
So it is providential that we got the private television licenses for private televisions. Otherwise, it would have just been propaganda.
But that was what it was before the deregulation.
Yes.
Yeah. So unfortunately, in many African countries, it's still like that.
It's still like that.
Yeah.
Well, we to round up on the mental health we are discussing, I've been speaking with Professor Armstrong Idachaba, former acting DG, Nigerian Broadcasters Commission, and we have been discussing the extent or the prevalence of mental health issues in Nigeria, particularly trauma that has not spared anyone.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the trauma of the Civil War. Look at the trauma of the Idachaba, October 7, 1967.
Yes.
Look at the trauma of Boko Haram, bandits, and kidnapping, and then the reckless destruction of lives in the Middle Belt in the last 10 years. The latest being Riom, the previous one being Yelwata.
Yeah.
And it is happening every day. How can a country today, 700 people died in a Mokwa flood? And painfully, the leaders don't consider it serious enough to quickly fly there. We are a traumatized people, and I just pray that our leaders will come to recognize it and begin to walk towards a saner, more healthy society. In your own case, I am praying that you take what you have learned to the university so that those that work with you, I'm talking of staff, and the students that are there will benefit from the exposure you people have had here.
Thank you, Father George. Congratulations. And I think that that's the way to go. The example, the model of institutional capacity building, I think it's very effective. I wish God gives you the resources so that you can do more of that, just to break them into cells and units, just the way you build, you evangelize and build cells. I think it's just the way out of our national problem.
And little by little, we begin to make positive impacts. Thank you very much, and
Thank
God
you, Father.
bless you.
It's a pleasure. Thank you. It's a pleasure. Thank you, Father.
Thank you.